Welcome back to Cultures TV, your global diversity resource. Again, we're here with Salina Marie Gomez, who's a graphic novelist with an interesting ethnic background, Polish and Mexican, and it really influenced her identity, of course, as many people with cultures, it does, but it also fueled her passion for art. So we're going to go back into that, and we started talking about your dad and how he wanted a boy and how that affected your identity as well. So what is that story? And then your dad has a unique trait in your family as well. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would imagine I would want a boy too if I had 4 daughters. And,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And
that's a lot of girls, and you're the only piece of testosterone in the house.
Sure, yeah, yeah. But you know, I don't know. I think in some weird way it probably, maybe it did affect, you know, my personality and my outcome, but I'm certainly not, you know, upset about it. He did end up having a boy 3 years later. Okay. But in those 3 years, you know.
Yeah, you're second to last, yeah.
Right, right. But in those 3 years, sort of, it was sort of, you know, just that formative time where, you know, his expectations of this child as being feminine, female, probably weren't there like they were for the others, you know. And also, I think my mom said, "Oh, no more kids after this," and so
all your hopes and his hopes and dreams were pinned on you.
A lot of projections in there.
It's really interesting that you remember that from age 1 to 3.
No. He and I have had this conversation.
Oh, you've had the conversations. Got you.
Yeah.
But you feel it. You feel the energy that was put into that.
Yeah, it was. In fact, when we had the conversation, it was a huge like, oh, well, thank you for telling me that. You know, because it was always sort of like, you know what, I clung to him, you know, I clung to him more than my mother. When he was a carpenter, he was a foreman at UIC in Chicago, so, you know, he was sort of like, I would prefer to build, you know, with his scrap wood than, you know, watch and learn how to cook from mom, which would have been a great skill to learn, but I didn't learn it. So, but I don't really have too much of a problem with it, but once my brother came along, it was like, my son, you know.
Oh, so then what? How was that?
I thought it was cool because I had someone to play with. Because my sister's always running around the house trying to put makeup on me and tweeze my eyebrows later on. And I'm like, don't do that. You know, running around calling me Frida, trying to pluck my eyebrows.
That's fantastic.
So, yeah, I grew up a tomboy. I was okay with it.
Well, Frida's good because, you know, she's a great artist. So you ended
up. And I do look up to her as well.
Yes. So then you were talking about your dad's gene, like, in your family, and so let's put some light on that.
Yeah, the graphic novel, I'm really trying to create a fictional world where I touch on that and create a metaphor for that, but this sort of identity fracture, like a sort of a fracture in the identity, like a fracture in a mirror. He always tells a story, my grandmother tells it too. He was born with bleached blonde hair, white hair, and blue eyes.
And he's Mexican.
And he's Mexican. And he was born in Houston.
And this is in Mexico?
No, this was in Houston.
Okay.
My grandmother was born in Houston. It was my great-grandfather, my father's grandfather,
who came from Mexico.
Rubio, he was put over the border during the revolution. Otherwise, he was going to be a child soldier and probably perish. So they saved him, put him over the border. He never went back. And so he lost his identity there. So there's point 1, abandonment. And then we go to, you know, then there's my grandmother, and she has my father, and my father has this gene, which so did my grandfather. My great-grandfather, they apparently both had it. Like, they were both born with white hair and blue eyes. And so it's not, that's just, you know, it's not like he carried it throughout his whole life, but when he was young, when he was really young, if he remembers it, it's part of his identity. So I just, you know, I think about those things a lot. I think about what it must be like to feel. He must have had that feeling too, of not knowing necessarily, am I really this or am I that? Because I was this for a minute and now I'm this.
And remembering that your father had those identity struggles as well kind of helped you, correct?
I think as an adult it has helped me. As a teenager I was, you know, struggling myself and I could not see through the smoke of, you know, that kind of like cultural balancing. You know, we didn't learn Spanish. We weren't allowed to learn Spanish, really. My grandmother didn't, you know, want to teach him Spanish because she wanted him to have an advantage. So it was sort of this, like, visual, I am Mexican, I eat, you know, Mexican food, I know how to make tamales, it takes 2 days, I know all these rituals, but but I don't, I don't always feel it, So there's that whole in-between area that is the reason why I love fiction,
And so you take all that, and when you took the courage to do what you want and do your art, that's where this came from, right? These marks are for courage.
Yeah, I wanted to find a home for myself in the world, and I did not ever feel that I had a home. I really didn't. I have a great family. I do. They're all supportive of my endeavors, but I still never felt at home because of this. Am I boy? Am I girl?
Yeah.
And so now I identify as gender queer, gender fluid. Am I Mexican or American? Well, I don't know. I don't really know, and I'm sort of creating the place that I need in my art and in myself. I'm just trying to be that example because I know there's other people out there like that.
Yes, exactly.
There
Which
have
is
to
why this is why we do this. Your stories like yours is exactly why we do this. So thank you. This was fantastic. And thank you for joining us. Remember, at Cultures, we speak your language.